I thought I'd be the #1 team in my league after today, and it sadly looks like I may have just lost to the worst team in the league and given them their first win of the year. So, yeah, today did not go well for me. Hopefully it went well for you. It started poorly right away when Davante Adams dropped 3 touchdowns in the Sunday morning contest. Just absolutely brutal. Happened right on the live stream in front of everybody. And the lessons learned from this game, not many. Matthew Stafford's a baller. He doesn't need Puka Nacua. Kyren Williams is going to be viable going into the future. Don't look at the fact that Blake Corum played 24 snaps and think this concerns Kyren, because ultimately this was a game that just got out of hand at the very beginning. And then Davante Adams is an absolute must-start wide receiver every single week that you have no Puka Nacua, which you knew before this, and of course we know after this. If you're looking at the other tight ends getting involved, Higbee had 6 targets, Colby Parkinson had 3 targets, Terrence Ferguson had 3 targets. I understand some people may rush out to pick up Terrence Ferguson off the waiver wire. I wouldn't bother, but of course, if you're subscribed, we will talk about our waiver wire options on Tuesday morning so you can get your bids in for your Wednesday waivers. Now, the Jacksonville into this, Trevor Lawrence is a bum. Never start him. Literally never. The running backs, I put Travis Etienne into my flex. And of course, what does he give us? Literally nothing. Byshell Tutin's out there just as much. That's an exaggeration, but seemed like he was out there a ton. Etienne played 42 snaps. Byshell Tutin was at 22. I am moving Travis Etienne down my rankings after this game. It's just so frustrating when you don't have the receiving involvement when the Jags get blown out. And then going over and looking at the receivers, you have the Travis Hunter breakout party. Now, I know everybody's going to be looking at the box score and going, oh my gosh, 101 receiving yards, 14 targets. He's here. The game was so out of hand by the time Travis Hunter did anything. I don't want to take this away from him because realistically, Travis Hunter may be a top 24 wide receiver in my rankings this next week, dependent on what happens with the Brian Thomas Jr. injury. But like, if you started Travis Hunter, you are a crazy person and you are the luckiest person on the planet. But if Brian Thomas Jr. misses time, Travis Hunter will be startable going into the future. Now, moving over to the Kansas City Chiefs. Yeah, Patrick Mahomes is the MVP. Like, he's going to win it. The dude played like 5 drives today, and then he got taken out because they boat raced the Raiders. Mahomes is a top 3 quarterback rest of season. He was already the QB1 in points per game. Isaiah Pacheco gets there with the rushing touchdown finally. Don't think Isaiah Pacheco's some must-start running back all of a sudden. Now, it does look like he's a lot more appealing based off the Kareem Hunt injury, but I do think they split the backfield with Brashad Smith. Going over and looking at the receivers, Rashee Rice gets multiple receiving touchdowns, 10 targets. Don't look at the snaps and go, oh my gosh, he only played 33 snaps out of 81. The Chiefs benched all their players, right? So it doesn't matter all this snap data. You know, you start Rice. Xavier Worthy is a borderline flex. I'm not super excited about Kelsey, not super excited about Pacheco, but I am very excited about Patrick Mahomes. Now, on the Raiders end of things, I know some people got upset with us in the comment section because we quote-unquote ranked Ashton Jeanty too low. I was just listening to sportsbooks. They were telling us this game was going to be a blowout, had the largest spread of any game of the week. Clearly turned out to be the case. I think I saw something that the Raiders ran fewer plays in this game since any offense has since 2002. So Jeanty will have much better games going into the future. Like, he only played 22 snaps in this. Garbage offense, garbage matchup. They got blown out. Geno Smith looks like he's just as bad as Tua. And then no wide receiver is startable here, even including Myers when Myers comes back. But they have the Week 8 bye, which they desperately need. Then you have Brock Bowers coming back in Week 9. And hopefully this offensive line gets healthier as well. Now, going over to the second or maybe worst starting quarterback in the league, we have Tua. Now, of course, if it is not 70 and sunny, Tua is equivalent to a middle school quarterback that got thrown into an NFL game. And now you actually have Mike McDaniel coming through and saying, like, yeah, Tua may be benched. You may not have Tua anymore. Kind of regardless, Devon Achane's going to remain a must-start player. Like, it's hilarious, right? This game was such a blowout. It wasn't a football game whatsoever. Achane was like higher, lower, 104.5 total yards on Underdog. So we were like, you know what? You have to start him regardless. And he still almost gets there. He actually comes through and he has about 100 total yards. And he gives you, I mean, a decent stat line of like 12, 13 points in a blowout. And then Jalen Waddle, you got to hope that he's traded out of Miami. Realistically, the Dolphins are probably going to be a little bit better than this going into the future. Like, sportsbooks knew that they were going to be garbage this week. You actually had the Cleveland Browns favored in this game. Going and looking at Cleveland, we knew that Quinshon Judkins was also a must-start running back this week because the Miami Dolphins had the worst rush defense in the entire league. Quinshon Judkins, he comes out here and he balls. Now, does that change our ranking of Quinshon Judkins going into the future? Nope. He's a first and second down running back on a garbage team. So if the Browns can go out there and win football games, Quinshon Judkins is going to be phenomenal, where you see 25 carries in comparison to 18 Dillon Gabriel pass attempts. I mean, they're giving Quinshon Judkins direct snaps. Like, Judkins was everything to this offense today, but you go through and you look really over the entire season, the Miami Dolphins have been the worst rush defense in the NFL by a country mile. So you just know you start your running backs against the Dolphins. Judkins is still exciting. Don't get me wrong. Just, I don't necessarily think he's a top 5 running back by any means now. Harold Fannon's usage did look somewhat appealing with no David Njoku. I have Jerry Jeudy on my bench, and honestly, I may just go ahead and cut him. Nobody's interesting here outside of Judkins and Harold Fannon with the David Njoku injury. Now, going over to the New England Patriots, Drake May looks phenomenal. 86 rushing yards in this game. He has 2 incompletions out of 23 pass attempts. Unbelievable play. Drake May remains a must-start quarterback going into the future. And looking at the running backs is one of the biggest things that changes today. And just in case you haven't heard, everything has changed. And you can cry in the comment section because it has. Now, Ramondre Stevenson just says, Trevion Henderson, buddy, I'm going to need you to make sure that my Gatorade's ready for me when I come back to the sideline, because you're never getting on the field. Ramondre Stevenson's a straight up bell cow here. It doesn't matter if it's the beginning of the game. It doesn't matter if it's the end of the game. Trevion Henderson is not touching the field. And at this point, I need to throw in the towel. I need to wave the white flag. I had Trevion Henderson as a buy low candidate. Once Antonio Gibson went down, I went, oh, this is his chance. These Antonio Gibson snaps are going to go to the receiving running back, Trevion Henderson. He's going to prove his talent. He's going to continue to expand his role. May have been the dumbest thing that I've ever said. The dude played 9 snaps today. Terrell Jennings played 8. So I'm not giving Trevion Henderson the Caleb Johnson treatment, because the Caleb Johnson treatment's like, hey, you're not even the starting running back if the guy in front of you goes down. Like, I'm more so going to give Trevion Henderson the RJ Harvey treatment, which it's like, if I ever tell you to put Trevion Henderson in your starting lineup until we see something else happen, unsubscribe from the channel, which would be devastating because we're about 1,000 subscribers away from 300K, and I would do anything to hit 300,000 before this season ends. So unsubscribe, though, if I tell you to ever play Trevion Henderson. Dear God, Ramondre is just the locked and loaded dude. Like, Ramondre Stevenson in this game, 88 rushing yards, gets you the rushing touchdown. Receiving involvement's non-existent. Stephon Diggs does come through. He plays 35 snaps, runs 27 routes, which is right there with the involvement that he's seen all year. And he does lead this team in receiving. I started Stephon Diggs myself this week, and I probably will continue to do so going into the future. And with the Titans, it doesn't matter what they change. It doesn't matter if they change who's calling plays. It doesn't matter if they change who's the head coach. You start literally nobody. I know you're going to have a lot of people coming out about talking this Jameer DK guy saying like, oh, he's an interesting waiver wire pickup. He's not. The Titans are garbage. They are worse than the New York Jets offensively. I can't imagine ever putting anybody in my starting lineup here. The only guys that you would even roster would be Tony Pollard and Tajay Spears, because if one of them were to get injured, the other guy could be startable. Now, going over to the Carolina Panthers. This game, I owe y'all a massive apology for. I thought Breece Hall was startable, and I thought Breece Hall was going to crush. I thought Breece Hall was a must-start player. Like, Breece Hall and Underdog coming into this game was higher or lower 101.5 total yards. And the dude comes through, and he has, what, like 52? So, clearly shows I have no idea what the hell I'm talking about. This was a perfect setup. I know one thing for sure that will happen on Underdog Fantasy on Monday is Baker Mayfield will go higher than half a total yard. And if you agree with that, you can find a link to get a special Baker Mayfield pick if you're new to Underdog Fantasy with the link in the description, comment section. When you sign up to Underdog Fantasy with code FLOCK, get $100 added into your account after you play your first 5. And on top of that, you will get that free Baker Mayfield selection, higher, lower, half a total yard. Underdog Fantasy is the #1 sports app in the entire app store because 1, it's an incredible app. 2, they have the best promos in the space. And 3, they are available in almost every state. Code FLOCK will also get you free questions that you can ask me in the live streams. And I'm live streaming every single day until Christmas. But realistically, we have no idea if we're ever going to see Justin Fields again. Now, it's not like Tyrod Taylor came in and Tyrod Taylor looked great. But we're to the point where with the Jets, you can roster Brees and he's a borderline RB2/flex play. And you roster Garrett Wilson waiting for him to come back. Hopefully he helps this offense out. But if I were Garrett Wilson, I'm not coming back anytime soon. I mean, we can see Brees Hall going, I've had to be a New York Jet my entire career. Life is hell. So, I mean, for the sake of Brees Hall, you hope he ends up getting traded. And then on the Carolina side of things, Rico Dowdle actually leads the team with 17 carries, 79 rushing yards, but Chuba Hubbard played more snaps. Chuba Hubbard plays 38 snaps in comparison to Rico Dowdle with 33. Chuba Hubbard actually has 24 receiving yards, which is ahead of Dowdle, who only had 17. So my concern with this offense looks like it's coming true. I think this is now the Seattle Seahawks backfield, where previously Rico Dowdle was a must-start running back every single week. And now they are just going to be going back and forth where neither of them is going to be usable because the offense won't be good enough. Xavier Legette finally did something. Like, I needed this so bad with my underdog best ball teams. Y'all have no idea. Now, of course, Quentin Johnson scored a touchdown, so you know we're chilling. But anyway, do not pick up Xavier Legette off the waiver wire. There's no interest. I know we had talked about, like, don't pick up Jalen Coker. If you have him, you probably want to drop him because what's the upside of being the wide receiver 2 for Bryce Young? It's the same exact thing I'd have for Xavier Legette. These are like best ball plays. If you're in an underdog best ball draft, sure, take them. But in your regular ESPN league, how the hell would you ever get them in your starting lineup? Tedero McMillan had to go up against Sauce Gardner. It was a tough matchup. You were right to be concerned about it coming in. I still thought he was somebody that you probably had to start as a flex, but I think Tedero McMillan still very easily is the wide receiver 1 in this offense, but this is still very much an offense I want nothing to do with. Now, going over to the New Orleans Saints, I actually started the Chicago Bears against the Saints. I thought that DST play was next level genius. Of course, the freaking team I play that's last in my league that hasn't won a single game. As y'all can tell, I'm pissed. Today was horrible. I'm not having a good time right now. I'm going to be here for y'all regardless, but I had this week penciled in. I had a bye on my schedule, and I just lost during my bye week. My opponent started the Browns DST, so my Bears DST play looked horrible, even though Spencer Rattler threw 3 picks. Miller gets injured in this game. So if you actually look at this chart from PFF, you'll see the snap rate goes dramatically up for Alvin Kamara. And Kamara's a lot more exciting if you have no Miller. I will say Devin Neal, I know, is going to be the talk of the waiver wire column for a lot of people. What's the upside with Devin Neal? I mean, we'll see what the extent of the Miller injury is. You would need an Alvin Kamara trade, of course. And then going over and looking at the wide receivers, Chris Olave finally, for the first time in his life, gives you a big week. 2 receiving touchdowns, 5 receptions, almost 100 receiving yards as well. Phenomenal game from Olave. He had consistent volume all year long, and he still remains a wide receiver 2 in my rankings every single week as somebody that you want to start. But really, it's Kamara, it's Olave. Nothing changes here. Going over to the Chicago Bears, Caleb doesn't give you any passing involvement. Obviously, he didn't really need to. Everything goes through the running backs with the combination of DeAndre Swift and Kyle Monangai. Do not think all of a sudden that Kyle Monangai is a startable RB outside of a DeAndre Swift injury. He's not. I honestly don't necessarily think that this usage of Kyle Monangai is something that's going to be super consistent going into the future. I mean, this game at the end looked a little close, but it really wasn't. But if Kyle Monangai does continue to see this many snaps, then of course you are going to have to lower DeAndre Swift down your rankings, even though Swift had a phenomenal day today where he had 20 opportunities and he goes for about 20 fantasy points. Going over to the wide receivers, I thought it was very weird that Underdog had Rome Odunze projected much lower than pretty much any of the other elite level wide receivers. They had him like higher, lower 54.5 receiving yards, where the other elite guys were in the 70s. And maybe it goes to show that Rome Odunze is not going to just consistently see a ridiculous amount of targets in this offense, especially now that DJ Moore is healthy. And one thing that's interesting to note with the PFF snaps is Colson Loveland is actually seeing a season high with his snap rate in this offense. Now, going over to the Philadelphia Eagles, Jalen Hurts balled, so I could have no Saquon Barkley points. Thank you. Jalen Hurts, 3 passing touchdowns, 326 passing yards. Jalen Hurts remains a must-start quarterback every single week. I think coming into this, we had him as our QB4. He probably goes up to being the QB3 with the Jaden Daniels injury. And then with Saquon Barkley, like, I lost this week. I haven't lost yet. We'll see what happens on Monday, but it looks likely. Big reason is the dude scores no points, right? He comes through. He has 42 total yards, no touchdowns. I honestly just feel lucky that he didn't get injured, because at one point I thought, crap, Saquon Barkley's out, but he looks like he is going to be good to go. And then Devonta Smith, A.J. Brown, when the Eagles are forced to throw the ball, they have a ton of upside. So, y'all know I also drafted a ton of Devonta Smith in Underdog Best Ball draft. So a really good day for Underdog Best Ball teams, but that doesn't really matter until the end of the season for me, as opposed to I'm living and dying by the Flock League every week. But yeah, I would start Smith as borderline flex play going into the future. A.J. Brown remains a must-start option. Obviously, A.J. Brown had the phenomenal catch to ice the game. Then going over and looking at the Minnesota Vikings, they have been keeping J.J. McCarthy on ice, going, you know what, buddy, you were so bad last time that we saw you. Why don't you just make sure that you are extra healthy? Call it 110% health. Well, now after Carson Wentz looks like this, I'm going to assume that we see J.J. McCarthy next week. Carson Wentz comes through, multiple interceptions. I mean, he has over 300 passing yards, right? This was a quote-unquote Carson Wentz revenge game. Jordan Mason plays more snaps than he pretty much has since you had no McCaffrey back when he was a Niner. But realistically, Aaron Jones coming back soon, so it's not like Jordan Mason is going to be a must-start option much longer. Jordan Addison balls here. Jordan Addison, 12 targets, 9 receptions, 128 receiving yards. Jefferson comes through with 10 targets. TJ Hawkinson has 9. And Hawkinson almost came away with the touchdown as well. I played Dallas Goedert over Hawkinson today. And honestly, if Hawkinson would have caught that TD, I'd be kicking myself, because that could be considering what I lost. And by going into the future, if you have this kind of target concentration, where you had a total of 31 targets going to these 3 players, they actually will be all viable weekly. Going over to the Colts, Daniel Jones remains a must-start quarterback. Looks incredible. If Mahomes isn't the MVP right now, it's Daniel Jones. Jonathan Taylor, once the 3rd touchdown was scored, I have family over at the house. I'm like, I know y'all don't watch football, but this is crazy right now. Jonathan Taylor, 3rd touchdown. He's already done this season. He was already leading the NFL in touchdowns coming into this game. And the team in my league, Sal, has freaking CMC and Jonathan Taylor on the same squad. It's going to be impossible. If I want to have any shot to win my league, I need a McCaffrey or a Taylor injury. I don't know how you could take down a team like that. Going on the receiving end of things, Alec Pierce, of course, I freaking play against Alec Pierce today, and he has 98 receiving yards. Don't pick him up. Don't start him. Tyler Warren had the receiving touchdown, 69 receiving yards. Michael Pittman had the receiving touchdown, 58 receiving yards. Tyler Warren and Michael Pittman were both obviously going to get the bump when you had no Josh Downs in this game. Once Downs comes back in, I do think that you need to be a little bit more concerned about the targets being dispersed. But until that happens, you start Warren, you start Pittman, you start JT. Now going over to the Los Angeles Chargers, Kamani Vidal still very much the starting running back. Like, if you started him, you can't kick yourself. The game just got completely out of hand where they had Justin Herbert drop back for, I want to say, more than 60 dropbacks, and they had 10 carries outside of the Herbert carries. So if you played Vidal, it was more of a game script thing. But if you look at the underlying snaps, it was him with 49, Hassan Haskins with 25. And also, I do want to say, hey, Vidal had his big game against the Miami Dolphins, which is one reason why I was hesitant, didn't want to rank him super high this week. And then going over, we talked about Gadsden on the waiver wire video last week, where we showed this chart from PFF where he was playing more and more and more every single week. Well, this week, he plays even more. He runs 47 snaps out of 61 Justin Herbert dropbacks. Incredible. Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen are all going to cycle going back and forth. One guy having a big week here, another guy having a big week here. Obviously, this was the Keenan Allen week where you have a massive Keenan Allen spike. Quentin Johnston saved some of our best ball teams with the receiving touchdown, but Ladd McConkey leads the team in targets. You probably start Quentin Johnston, Ladd McConkey, Keenan Allen, and Gadsden. You probably start all of them. Now, we'll talk about Gadsden again in the waiver wire video this next week. Now, going over and looking at what we have with the Commanders, Jaden Daniels gets injured yet again. So it's tough to know exactly what this is going to be. He is going to get the MRI on Monday. I was watching the game. I haven't seen much since then. Obviously, I'll throw some screenshots on the screen. But like, he went into the tent. He came out at the tent. Apparently, he told his mom, like, hey, we good. And he ran into the locker room. And of course, we never saw him again. And Marcus Mariota did Marcus Mariota things. But Jaden Daniels, I think you have to be concerned with this point with the continued trend of lower body injuries. Going over and looking at the running backs here, Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt. Like, honestly, I'm happy I traded him away. Like, what the hell is this dude doing? You have everybody injured in Washington, still not getting there. Still no receiving involvement whatsoever. Zach Ertz, must-start player. When you have no Debo and you have no Terry, I mean, this team is one of those teams that should wish that they had a week 8 bye. That way they could get their wide receivers healthy and get Jaden Daniels back in. Now, going over to the Cowboys, he had the big CeeDee Lamb touchdown immediately. And Dak Prescott's looked phenomenal. Dak Prescott over the past 4 games has had 319 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, 237 yards, 4 touchdowns, 261, 3 touchdowns, 264, 3 touchdowns. He now has 4 straight games with 3+ passing touchdowns and 0 interceptions. So Dak Prescott, top 5 quarterback rest of season. Javonte Williams still is absolutely dominant. I mean, if you look at the receiving involvement, it's not great this week, but ultimately it doesn't really matter, right? The Dallas Cowboys, I mean, once Jaden Daniels went down, they just boat raced the Commanders. CeeDee Lamb, must-start name. George Pickens, must-start name. Jake Ferguson, must-start name. It's actually funny as I remember Jake Ferguson was like higher, lower, 34.5 receiving yards coming into this game on Underdog. And if anybody took the higher then, it's like, okay, well, technically you went lower, but obviously a phenomenal day, and hopefully you started him. And it looks horrendous that I said to sell him high with CeeDee Lamb coming back. Now, going over to the Giants, I would say the Giants had the best game today in terms of just pure enjoyment, right? The most fun game to watch. Like the play that it hit off, I think it was Wan'Dale's hands, bounced into the tight end's hands. That was insane. Red Zone was showing that live. Jackson Dart, I thought he wasn't viable with no Malik Neighbors. You actually had the New York Giants projected to be the lowest scoring offense in the league according to sportsbooks this week. And what happens? 3 passing touchdowns and the rushing TD. Jackson Dart looks insane from a real life perspective. And if he's going to run the ball, good in a fantasy perspective. Obviously, we'll talk about this a lot in the offseason this next year. But we're going to have to monitor the Malik Neighbors injury because last I checked, I mean, it was a serious injury. Yeah, haven't had surgery yet on it. So you really hope Malik Neighbors is going to be good to go this next season, because if so, Dart's going to be so damn exciting. I started Cam Skattebo. I was very much worried about Scat because I thought this offense was about to be much worse. But hell, it looks like it's not going to be bad at all. Now, Tyron Tracy did get the rushing touchdown, but it was just like a fluke play. The offensive line had a wide open hole for Tyron Tracy, like 31 yards out from the end zone. So don't think all of a sudden that Tracy is going to be stealing touchdowns from Scat. And then going over and looking at the receivers, Wan'Dale's still the only interesting wide receiver for the Giants. And then on the Denver side of things, RJ Harvey is still the backup running back. RJ Harvey is a premium handcuff. I've seen a lot of people have RJ Harvey on their waiver wire whenever I'm reviewing their teams in live streams. And of course, we're streaming every single night. I would say, like, pick up RJ Harvey, because if Dobbins were to get injured, then I think he could be the next Rachaad White, the next Rico Dowdle is a must start option. Then going over and looking at what we have with the receivers, Courtland Sutton, still a must start name. Troy Franklin actually also has 10 targets, but he only has 19 receiving yards. Only guys I want to start here in Denver, J.K. Dobbins, Courtland Sutton, and that's about it. With the Packers, Josh Jacobs came through with 2 rushing touchdowns for us. He did everything that he could. I want to see the underlying snap data, because every time I looked on the screen, like, yeah, Jacobs only played 31 snaps. So it did look like they were really limiting him with the calf. Like every time I looked up on the TV, it looked like Jacobs was not in there, and instead it was Emmanuel Wilson. But Jacobs still going to be a must-start running back going into the future. Really hope that the calf is good, because with Saquon Barkley not producing, I really need him. Matthew Golden, I honestly thought would end up with a better day than what he did. He seemed like he was involved quite heavily. But still, with the Packers, remains you start Jacobs every single week. You start Tucker Kraft every single week. And then Romeo Doubs, Matthew Golden are borderline desperation flex plays. And then going over and looking at what we have with the Cardinals into things, Bam Knight actually does lead this backfield with 34 snaps, but Michael Carter played 28 and Dearness Johnson played 14. So ultimately, Bam Knight played fewer than 50% of the snaps for the Arizona Cardinals. So do not start Michael Carter. Do not start Bam Knight. Do not start any of these players. They're not good enough to be viable if they're playing fewer than 50% of the total snaps of this offense. And then looking at Trey McBride, he's legit just better with Jacoby Brissett. Kyler Murray doesn't look at Trey McBride in the red zone for whatever reason. Jacoby Brissett will. And then Marvin Harrison, he have a big play, but not consistent volume, which is what we are used to. But honestly, if you are a Trey McBride owner, who we've had as our tight end one pretty much all year, and he will remain there, you're kind of bummed knowing that Kyler's going to come back after the week 8 bye. But I really appreciate you, and I want to remind you, if you wanted to get on the #1 sports app on the App Store, Underdog Fantasy, you can find the link in the description, comment section. And if you use code FLOCK, you get $100 added to your account after you play your first 5. You'll get a free Baker Mayfield pick, higher, lower, half a total yard for the game on Monday. And on top of that, you'll get free questions for the live streams that we're doing every single day until Christmas. Underdog Fantasy is an incredible app. They've been the only sponsor of this channel for the past 5 years. And they're available in almost every single state, which is why they are the #1 sports app in the App Store pretty much anytime I check. But I think that's all I got for you. I really appreciate you, and I really hope we get to see you out in the live stream on Monday.